There has never been a worse time for Donald Trump to have a pudding brain because the mainstream media is finally starting to ask him the tough questions on two stories that he can't seem to keep straight. The first, obviously, is an Epstein scandal ever erupting in which Donald Trump changes what he thinks every day. One day, Obama wrote the files. The next, they don't exist. And the same is the case for Trump's tariffs, where he is just sporadic and making his decisions which have ultimately backfired. And both of those things together led to a disaster press conference where Donald Trump said something so shocking about the Epstein files, and you could see Howard Lutnick behind him uncomfortable the whole time. We are going to get into this meltdown that his handlers are panicking over. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our channel. Now, before we can get into what Trump had to say about Epstein, I want to start with how Howard Lutnick tried to babysit him over tariffs.
All right, do you plan to release more details of Vietnam, China deals? There's going to be paperwork released to public.
Well, I might. I don't think it matters how much you release of the deal. We have a Vietnam deal, and I would say that that deal is being pretty well set. It's pretty well set. Again, that's an opening of their country. They've opened it up. Just so you know, these were closed countries. They were wonderful people, wonderful leaders, very strong, smart leaders. But their countries were closed to us, but our country wasn't closed to them. And so I said, you got to open up your country. So we're going to see. But the Vietnam deal, we may open it. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you. Is it necessary? No. Yeah, I don't think so.
Howard Lutnick must be just the biggest ass kisser in this administration. He jumps in there at the end trying to support dear leader, affirming him, saying, no, we don't need to release details about the tariffs. Why would we? But what do you even mean by that? Details on whether or not you have a deal or you don't? We don't understand that at this point. Apparently a letter is a deal, but it's not a deal, but it's working towards a deal. They also could mean that we don't get any details on what the percentage of the tariff is. So tariffs are going to be imposed without our knowledge. Goods are going to be shipped to the United States without business owners knowing until the last possible second how much more they have to pay for our product. We've been dealing with uncertainty throughout the entire administration, but this is a whole new level of nonsense, and it is all just coming out of Donald Trump's broken brain, a broken brain that led to the meltdown we're about to check out. But first, we have to start with some very important context about the state of the White House right now.
But there are other social media influencers like Benny Johnson and the like who took to Twitter X over the weekend, really trashing President Trump, which we never see before, accusing him of hiding things, accusing him of not being honest about this list. And Trump's efforts to try to quell this storm, his Truth Social post, nearly 1,000 words over the weekend, did exactly the opposite. I mean, Truth Social, let's remember, this is a Donald Trump created and owned platform. This is the first time I've ever seen him be ratioed, meaning he got more comments, in this case, almost overwhelmingly negative comments, than he got likes and approval, stamps of approval for that post. There's real anger here. And his, as you noted, Joe, his post had so many, suggesting that there was no list, but yet it was written by the Democrats. He was talking out of both sides of his mouth. And I'm told, back to you guys here, there's some real panic in the White House right now. A lot of people have gone quiet. A lot of people have gone dark. But they recognize, those that are talking, recognize right now, this is a problem. It's a first time they've had a problem like this, and they don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
MAGA world knows that this story is not going away. Donald Trump's screed on Truth Social saying that it was Obama and nobody cares, and Joe Biden and the auto pen and the mainstream media and the fake news, that only triggered the highest number of searches for Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein that we have ever seen in a single day. That was the result of Donald Trump telling everyone, please be quiet, please go away, please stop talking about it, let me shake some keys, go over there, I'll investigate Rosie O'Donnell and Adam Schiff. It didn't work, which is why Trump's meltdown today, literally attacking his own MAGA supporters for asking questions, is so much worse. And what's even worse about that worse, what is on top of that worse, is what Donald Trump had to say about this evidence. And take a look at Howard Lutnick's face during this entire spiel. It is insane.
You've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story?
I don't
and
understand
about how it's been handled.
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think, well, really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
So you have Howard Lutnick clearly uncomfortable, like looking at the ground as Trump is rambling on about Epstein. This guy who is a bootlicker of Trump can only get a laugh and a supportive nod in when he says fake news. But Howard Lutnick very clearly concerned, as he was earlier when he had to butt in on Trump. But the admission that Trump makes here is why he keeps screwing himself over. Donald Trump said, all credible evidence has been given, but it's boring stuff. All the credible evidence. But that's not what Pam Bondi or Trump has described as what has been released in these files. Pam Bondi said the rest of what we have will hurt people, whether that be victims or others, so we've redacted it. They said we're not going to continue to share information because it will only be damaging to victims, that they've taken away information, video clips that are not needed for the public. But Donald Trump has admitted something different. He said everything that's credible. That is a different word. That is a different framing of this situation. What does credible mean? What is an account that isn't credible? Who is Donald Trump to decide? Is he admitting that Pam Bondi is going through with a black marker and crossing out what she thinks will be bad for Donald Trump or his associates? Is that what Trump's admitting here? No matter what, the White House is freaked out about it. But that's what it seems like to me, that Donald Trump is trying to get his story together because it's no longer they're not keeping the Obama stuff out, whatever that conspiracy was. It's that they're only sharing things that are credible. And that breaks with the narrative that Pam Bondi has been pushing this whole time, that she shared everything she possibly could that wouldn't hurt people, not that wasn't truthful in the mind of MAGA. And that is an important distinction that is going to hurt Donald Trump. Speaking of which, distinctions aren't necessarily his bag, because when he was asked about an upcoming deadline, he didn't have a great response.
Which was the date you gave August 1st, but the date that you gave August 1st, right. Why stick with the date if you're saying that
payments start on August 1st. The only thing that's really sacred about August 1st is that's when payments start. So they have to start paying billions of dollars to you and people. Are you a citizen of the country?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. You'll be very happy because you're going to be getting a lot of money. Just like they found a budget surplus. We have a budget surplus of $25 billion. Everyone said, how did that happen? It hasn't happened in many years. It happened because of good management and tariffs.
Do you plan to release 14?
So if the deadline for the tariff doesn't matter, what does? What are the tariffs for? What's the leverage in making the deal? I'm surprised we didn't see Howard Lutnick just like cover Trump's mouth as he continues to screw over these negotiations. He is imbecilic. And as we saw today, Donald Trump's tariffs are directly responsible for inflation rising to the highest point since February. And it is the reason Jerome Powell continues to state for his refusal to cut rates, something that Donald Trump is clearly very upset about.
Would you fire Jerome Powell over the Treasury renovation?
Well, he spent $2.5 million building this place. I have to say this. I think he's terrible. I think he's a total stiff. But the one thing I didn't see him as a guy that needed a palace to live in. You talk to the guy, it's like talking to nothing. It's like talking to a chair. No personality, no high intelligence, no nothing. But the one thing I would have never guessed is that he would be spending $2.5 billion to build a little extension onto the Fed.
Is that a fireable
Nobody's
offense?
ever seen. I think it sort of is, because if you look at his testimony to the House and the Senate, you take a look at the testimony, it's under it. That whole thing is, he's not talking about the problem. It's a big problem.
Once again, it is not surprising that Donald Trump doesn't understand even his own economic policy, but he must know, I guess he must not know because he doesn't know, that the response from Jerome Powell is directed at him. It is Donald Trump who is creating his own problem. That it is a result of the tariffs. We've talked about this, but inflation is spiking once again. Consumers are bearing the brunt of the cost. This is effectively and actually and truthfully and factually a tax on Americans. And it's important to note that as Donald Trump will be touting these billion-dollar numbers that tariffs have brought in, saying it's more than we've ever seen. And it's like, well, yeah, maybe because we haven't been doing tariffs because it's an economic idiocy agenda that doesn't make any sense in the context that Donald Trump wants to carry them out as a tax on working people. But at the same time, he'll complain about Jerome Powell. Donald Trump has made unsteady and chaotic all of America. We saw at the beginning of this video him saying that they're not even going to share details about what the percentages of the tariffs are to just put business leaders completely in the dark. That's the current state of things. That's the mind of the man in charge. And we hear Fox talk so much about how these communist Democrats want to run our economy. They want bread lines, talking about Zoran and making sure that produce is affordable. He wants state-owned grocery stores. So scary. Yet Donald Trump is quite literally running our economy based on whatever pops into his mind in terms of a number for his tariffs. Of course, it's going to unsettle markets. Of course, Jerome Powell is going to want to keep a steady hand. And of course, Donald Trump is going to want to yell at him and try to fire him for that. But he can't. And I think people do recognize the instability, the incompetence. And I think it's a theme that carries throughout this administration, because probably it's really easy to pick up for anyone who watches Donald Trump for even a second. Just take a listen to his nonsense right here.
Mr. President, a question on AI. How do you want Americans to think about it? Are you concerned about job loss or privacy, or do you think this is the new technology?
Well, it's interesting because we need jobs. We need a lot of people to work. You know, we're going to be building very shortly hundreds of factories, including AI. We're building a lot of car factories. They're all coming in from other countries now.
I just can't believe this continues to be our president. He is an imbecile. He has no idea what he's saying, and it's embarrassing every single day. We got to call it out, though, and if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.